Phil Ivey, Vanessa Selbst, and Antonio Esfandiari. They all played in one of the most prestigious poker tournaments in the world, the PCA 100K Super High Roller. And this is where they met their match. David "Doc" Sands, a 23-year-old American pro who seemed to be one step ahead of everyone else.
The kid's young, but he's good.
He's very strong, very strong.
In this video, we showcase how he confused the best players in the world. The Doc now playing a stack of 1.7 million. And he's raising here in early position, makes it 57,000 with ace-5 suited. Ivey has 5 deuce of clubs in the big blind.
This would be a very loose defend, but Ivey's quite deep, and so is Doc, so he can sometimes make a call here profitable, assuming he doesn't go cray-cray and 3-bet.
So Ivey calls, and we go heads up to the flop.
Ivey not in great shape before the flop.
Ace-5-3, top 2 for Doc Sands. Ivey with a pair of 5s and a gut shot.
And that's actually kind of hitting this flop hard for this kind of hand.
He checks to the razor. Sands continues for 64,000.
Ivey's going to have no problem calling. Pair, gut shot, backdoor clubs, sweet.
He calls. The turn is the 6 of clubs, additional equity for Ivey.
And that turn card is just awesome sauce for Ivey. Sands 2 pair still best. He's happy to keep betting for value.
Ivey has checked a second time. And Doc Sands will bet a second time, 177,000.
Now, Ivey can either choose to semi-bluff raise or just call with a pretty disguised hand. You're more likely to see Phil Ivey use a coupon than fold in this spot.
He's picked up his cards. Pump fake. Ivey cutting out raising chips.
Here we go.
He makes it 527,000 total.
Now, I think this semi-bluff might work against any decent single ace. This is a weird spot for Doc. He's not beating any value hands, since Phil's probably not even going to raise a worse 2 pair in this spot. But there also really aren't a lot of value hands possible.
All in.
Sands shoves.
Now who's in a weird spot?
It'll cost Ivey everything he's got.
Wow, this is amazing. Phil Ivey, ladies and gentlemen, is in a spot. Now, Phil thinks all of his perceived outs are live. He absolutely has to make this call. We know his deuce and 5 outs are dirty, which means he has to make his flush or a gut shot, which also won't always be good. Phil Ivey is kerfuffled. I think he's certainly regretting that check raise now. Doc's got to know he's ahead, but I don't know if that means he can relax or that he wants a call. Even knowing what the cards are, Phil's actually getting good enough odds to call, but the variance in this spot is massive. It doesn't matter what chips he counts out, it is all in to call.
This is the biggest pot of the tournament so far.
He's thinking about how this never would have flown in 2006.
Guess you could have that, maybe. And I'm not in bad. I'm not in that bad shape, but no way you have that. This is so. This one's funny. This one is funny.
Phil Ivey's been spending too much time with Daniel Negreanu.
Okay.
Surprising to see Ivey squirm like this. Surprising he didn't actually have a plan of what he'd do if Doc Sands came over the top of his check raise.
All right. Okay, I'll call.
Ivey's gonna go for it.
Gulp.
5s and deuces no good. He needs a club or a 4 on the river.
So stupid I am.
Now he's been spending too much time with Yoda. Ivey does have 12 outs, which means he's going to hit a little more than 1 out of every 4 times.
It's a 6 on the river. We lose Phil Ivey.
Yeah, Phil. Thanks.
This time the Doc does take out the Ivey.
He's just won the biggest pot of the tournament so far. He now has over 3 million. He's the monster chip leader. It's time for us to sweat with Vanessa Selps. We're only going to see her hole cards here.
Doc Sands, brought to you by the makers of Bullet Time Slow Motion from the Matrix trilogy.
Under the gun, he will raise. 64,000. Vanessa with ace-king under the gun +1.
Now, even though we're in early position, we have position on Doc.
She just calls.
I like the just call from early. We both have huge chip stacks, so there's no reason to go to war.
The blinds are folded, so it's heads up to the flop. And it's a clubby flop, king high.
Top pair in the nut flush draw. Where are we going? Nowhere. We're going nowhere. We're happy to play for all of the chips.
Doc Sands continues for 88,000.
I like a call here even more than before the flop. We have a very strong hand, but there aren't many that can call a raise that we're ahead of. When we call, it disguises both the strength of our hand and our strong redraw.
Having called the bet, Vanessa sees the 6 of hearts on the turn.
Still like our hand. We can pretty much call every street blindly and not really worry about it.
Here comes a second barrel from the doctor. 244,000.
Boy, that's a big bet. I think Doc might be able to put us on a big club or a big hand, but probably not both.
Vanessa calls a second time. 857,000 in the middle now. 3 of diamonds on the river.
What a brick. All that potential on the flop. Now all we've got is a pair of kings.
And a pair of 3s.
Good point, well made, James. Doc's got that pair of 3s too, though.
He bets 547,000 on the river. That is a chunky bet.
Boy, I really don't like this. When we just called under the gun +1, I think big hands become a fairly big part of our range, and if Doc knows this and he's still betting, he's probably not bluffing us. Trying to bluff Vanessa Selps is usually as ill-advised as the t-shirt that looks like a tuxedo I'm going to be wearing at our wedding.
She folds.
Let's see it.
King Jack.
Awesome fold. Sweet fold, Vanessa.
When they want to show the camera again, it's not good.
Bad sign. I shouldn't have folded that hand, but thought he had it. Didn't make sense for him to bluff. You know it's gonna be on TV, so you might as well just tell me after the tournament.
Yeah, but I don't get European TV. I might forget and then get to relive the moment.
Come on, the kid's young, but he's good.
He's very strong.
Plays good.
Very strong.
Must have been Queen of Clubs 10. Unless you're just nuts.
The doctor is in.
Looks like he's raising. Sure enough, he makes it 64,000 to play. He has ace-deuce offsuit. Vanessa Selps has 7-5 suited.
This would be an awfully light call, so I think typically if Vanessa's playing this hand, she's 3-betting it.
No, she's calling.
String calling.
Seiver folds the button. Gruesome in the small blind will also pass. Antonio gives up the big blind. We're off to the flop. And it's Jack 4 deuce with 2 clubs.
Pretty good flop for Doc. Pairs his kicker, has the backdoor flush draw, got the wheel draw.
He continues for 84,000.
Now Vanessa's gonna go for the raise when she's missed completely.
Interesting. 233,000 total.
Presumably because she just called last time before the flop with a huge hand. Hey Miranda, this is what it looks like when your fiance punts. Doc is going nowhere.
He calls the raise. And with 659,000 in the middle, we're off to the turn, which is the Queen of Clubs. Sands now with the nut flush draw to go with his pair, albeit bottom pair.
Such a good card for Doc, and subsequently a terrible one for Vanessa to continue her bluff.
Sands has checked to her.
Oh boy, it's 4th and 25, and Vanessa is bringing in the kicker.
She bets 347,000 with absolutely nothing.
Now, don't get me wrong, this is a heck of a stone bluff. Unfortunately, Doc's got a hand that just always has massive equity against Vanessa's range. A lot of the time, she's going to be monkeying around, and worst case scenario, he's never drawing dead.
He calls the bet. The pot is now over 1.35 million. Vanessa is the effective stack. She has 1.1 million behind.
And she is going to have to empty the clip on the river, and even that might not work. Did I say might not work? I meant definitely won't work.
Yes, she's paired her 5, but it's the 5 of clubs. The stone cold nuts for Doc Sands, and he checks it!
She can empty the clip all she wants. She is firing blanks. Better just throw down your guns and come out with your hands up.
I'm all in.
Call.
She bluff shoves the river!
You're good.
Snap! The nuts are good.
Just nothing. Nice hand. Yeah, the ace jack with ace clubs.
Vanessa Selbst is out.
Good game.
Wicked good check by Sands on the end. That's going to look worse on TV than it actually was.
Antonio Esfandiari, ace jack suited. Raises, makes it 90k. Ace king for Doc Sands.
Does he just call or does he try to 3-bet, get it in?
Those are raising chips. It is a 3-bet to 170,000. Greg Jensen, Scott Seiver, Troyanovsky, they all fold. So action's back on Esfandiari.
Oh man, magicians always have the hottest assistants. Don't know if Antonio can get away from this one.
I'm all in.
He shoves.
All in. Call.
And Doc Sands calls.
Nice hand.
Looking for a jack or some clubs on the flop. Not much there for him.
Only one club on the flop. Some chop possibilities developing.
If Doc's ace-king holds, we have our final table, and the remaining 8 players are in the money.
That deuce on the turn means Antonio can now hit a 4 or a jack to stay alive. No matter how much money you've won in your life, this moment is intensity in 10 cities.
Such a gross feeling. Yeah.
These 100K bubbles really are gross.
The river is a deuce. Antonio bubbles the super high roller.
Nice hand, sir.
Good game, buddy.
He's got queen 10 on the button. And he will raise his button, makes it 200,000 total. Scott Seiver has 3-5 suited.
Scott's getting okay odds to defend, especially since he can double through Doc.
He calls. Heads up to the flop, which is queen 5-3. Top pair for Sands, 2 pair for Seiver.
We could easily see it all go in here.
Sands does not c-bet, he checks behind.
2 super aggro players flop huge and it goes check, check, does not compute.
Seiver checks a second time. Surely we now get the delayed c-bet from Sands. No, he checks again! Incredible, a deuce on the river.
See if Scott actually wants to attempt some value. Or we can just check it down all day, guys, see who runs best.
Seiver is going to go for value. 300k.
Call.
2 pair.
Sands pays him off.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Wow.
Dude,
Sands shows the queen.
jeez. But check. Who checks that with the queen?
Feel good about that one. Wow. Feel like I just won 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Action on Seiver.
320.
Norman raise. With queen 7 suited.
Scott's going to be raising the majority of his buttons. It's typical heads-up strategy. Scott's going to want to work Doc while he's in position.
Sands will defend with jack 8 off.
Perfectly fine hand to call with.
Queen high flop. Seiver's hand still good.
Check.
Check, check.
Trappy McTrapperson.
Sands pairs his jack on the turn.
And he's going to think he can value bet this now. This is just what Scott wanted.
440,000.
There's a really good chance Scott just calls and lets Doc try to value bet the river as well.
Seiver does just call. Well, Doc is definitely going to value bet the river now. He's just made trips.
Yeah, 100% chance of value bet.
1.56 million in the pot.
Pretty unlucky start to things here for Scott Seiver.
Doc Sands will bet 970,000.
Whether Scott likes it or not, he's got to call this. He wanted Doc betting turn and river, and he got it. He just didn't want him hitting turn and river.
Call.
He calls. Rivered again, Mr. Seiver.
Shake it off, buddy. Shake it off.
Seiver's on the button.
4.
Min raising with pocket nines. Doc Sands has tens.
Oh, boy. Now, don't worry, Doc Sands is kind of like a brontosaurus. Sometimes it can take up to a full minute for his brain impulses to reach his muscles. He'll get there.
Here comes the re-raise.
I'm all in.
Scott responds with an insta-shove.
Call. All in call.
And Sands calls.
I have 10s, he has 9s.
He's an 82%
Yeah.
favorite to win the super high roller.
Queen, Queen, Jack seems really fair. And I won't even call for other cards if I gotta.
Well, maybe out loud he won't.
As JC says, 9s are the card that make the most sense.
9 on the flop.
It is science, apparently.
They make the most sets.
That is just dirty.
Seiver now an 88% favorite to double up and take the huge chip lead in this heads-up battle.
Doc Sands not drawing dead yet. Unless someone folded a 10, there are still 2 in the deck.
Just a 5% chance of busting Seiver and winning the title here and now. Seiver doubles up to over 12 million. He has a 6-1 chip lead and we play on.
Doc is basically crippled at this point, though. It is all in or fold for him.
He's on the button. He's got King 4.
And a king is certainly good enough to move all in with.
He raises.
All in.
Seiver shoves on him and he calls.
Scott Seiver the slight favorite, but no lead is too safe in poker. Scott knows that better than anyone. Jason Kuhn, Tom Marchese, Erica Mutino all sweating the Doc. Scott Seiver sweating this flop.
The flop is Queen 8-5, all diamonds. Sands has the 4 of diamonds.
6 of diamonds, Jack of diamonds.
Sure, let's start
Yeah,
with the
just
6.
chop it up.
Start with the 6 and go from there.
No, only if you can wield both at the same time.
These guys are crazy.
9 of hearts on the turn changes nothing. Seiver a 68% favorite to win the tournament.
Doc's got more than a quarter of the deck as outs, a 1 in 3 chance of hitting.
He doesn't hit on the river. Seiver seals the deal and wins the 100K super high roller here at PCA 10.
Obviously, I don't need to tell you.
Again.
You played so sick for 2 days.
Appreciate it.
It's so sick, man.
Well, what can you do?
Well, let's not forget that Doc Sands will walk away with the better part of $1.26 million. But you do sympathize with his frustration. Thanks to that lucky set of 9s, Scott Seiver is the super high roller champion.